I'd like to introduce none other than my wife, Rebbetzin Sarah Warman,
Sarah,
to share some words of Torah. And look at that! Would you not have it? She's right here.
Hello, everyone. Oh, I'm
muted.
talking to myself now.
Hi, Sarah Warman.
Sarah.
Sarah.
Hi. I'm nervous. I haven't seen everyone in so long, and I'm a little overwhelmed over here. I have my notes, so if you see me looking down, I'm not like I'm literally just looking at my notes. So let's get this started. I want to screen share with you guys. Again, there are people like trying to come in, Avi. I don't know how to do this. Oh, I do. Okay. So I hope everyone is doing great. I wanna talk about specifically this week's parasha. This week's parasha is Parashat Behalotcha, and in Sefer Bamidbar. And basically, we're in a time where the Jews are currently in the Midbar, in the desert. And one second, someone's trying to come in. Obviously, this happens all the time because
yeah, usually.
Okay, well, I'm not a good multitasker, so it'll be fun. And so basically, the Jews are currently in the desert on their way to the land called Eretz Yisrael, back then known as Canaan. And so I want to basically introduce to you the way they traveled in the desert by taking these psukim, and I'm going to read them and translate them. You have the English to read also, but we'll see exactly where we're getting at over here. So basically, Pasuk Yudchad, it says, Al pi Hashem yas'u b'nei Yisrael, v'al pi Hashem yachanu, kol yom asher yishkon ha'anan et ha'mishkan yachanu. Basically, Hashem told them that the way that they're going to travel is through the way the cloud will be moving. And that's how they're going to move. And Pasuk Yutet explains, U'beharech ha'anan al ha'mishkan yamim rabim v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha'mishmeret Hashem v'lo yasu. When the cloud will linger over the Mishkan for however long it would be, that is when they would not travel. So basically, the way it worked was in the camp is there was a lot of shvatim, a lot of tribes, and in the center was the Mishkan, and the cloud would be over the Mishkan. And what happens is that they would basically, depending on whether the cloud would be over the Mishkan or not, is when they would actually start walking and start traveling towards the land of Israel. So Pasuk Chav says, "V'yesh asher yiyeh ha'anan yamim mispar al mishkan al pi Hashem yachanu al pi Hashem yasu." Sometimes the cloud would remain for several days over the Mishkan, and basically that would basically explain that they would have to camp. They would not be allowed to travel. And then I'm going to share the other psukim. Second. Could you guys see that? Okay, and then it says, "V'yesh asher yiyeh ha'anan me'arav et baboker, v'na'aleh ha'anan baboker, v'nasu o yamam v'layla, v'na'aleh ha'anan v'nasu." Sometimes the cloud would remain there, until the morning or the evening, and they would travel, or the cloud may even remain there for a day, and so forth. And Chafbet explains, "O yamim, o chodesh, o yomayim." And whether it was for a day or two or a year or a month, the cloud would linger, and however long the cloud would kind of rest on the Mishkan would basically explain to you and tell you, thank you, Avi, how long, like when they would be able to travel. So he's explaining sometimes the cloud would stay for a day, sometimes the cloud would stay for a month, and depending on how long is when they would actually travel. And the very last psukim explain. Second, I'm trying to get it. So the last pasuk says, "Al pi Hashem yachanu ve'al pi Hashem ya'asu." The way they traveled is the way they encamped. Mishmaret Hashem shamru al pnei al pi Hashem beyad Hashem, and they kept charge of the Lord, of the word of the way Hashem told them to travel. So at the end of this, at the end of explaining exactly how it is that they traveled, the very last pasuk explains, which is the last pasuk in the parak, as in that's the way they did it. Bnei Yisrael followed exactly the way that Hashem had decided the way they decided, however Hashem said, is how the way they would travel. So if you looked at the psukim, a lot of the times when he was explaining, when Moshe was explaining the way they were going to travel, they used the words v'yesh, or they used the words o. And if you look at the translation of those words, basically that word means sometimes. Sometimes it would be like this, sometimes it would be like that, sometimes there would basically be this pattern of uncertainty. Okay, they would travel that day, or they would travel that month, they would travel that year. There was no really knowing exactly when they were going to get up and move. So I ask you guys, and feel free to unmute yourselves, what do you think would be Hashem's reasoning behind that specifically? Any brave volunteers? There's no one? Could be because you probably don't understand what I was saying, which is okay. But basically, what happened, Avi, do you want to give a suggestion?
Wow. No, you got this.
I got this? Okay. So basically, before I answer the question, I want you guys to have a little bit more of context into where we are in the story. Bnei Israel at this moment just left Egypt. They went from being slaves to now being free, right? We know the story of the 10 plagues. They left Egypt, they left Mitzrayim, and now all of a sudden they received the Torah, they became the Jewish people. And what happens is that now we have this God that we need to follow, who's our leader, who's, the man in charge, quote unquote, man in charge. So what is, and now one of you better answer this question. I'm not, before I pick on you, but what is the number, and I'm probably gonna ask Joel, what is the number one thing, okay, that you need to have in your leader? If you had to guess, what is the number one thing you'd want to have in your leader?
In your what?
What is the number one thing you need to have in your leader? Like when you have, the leader of the trip, whoever's in charge, what is that one thing that you need to have with that person?
Faith.
Confidence.
Confidence. What else? Trust. Someone said trust.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Basically, thanks for the ones that are brave out there to answer. But basically, what happens is that we just became a people only a few weeks ago. Okay, we just received the Torah. We said Na'aseh v'nishma. We said, okay, we're going to be these people, but we don't really understand what the heck that fully means. And Hashem's very first decision, very first mission, very first thing for us was to actually condition us to rely on God. And what better way to do that other than literally having this uncertainty in the way we were going to travel and not know for how long and not know when we were going to move. Just to put a little bit perspective, because we've all been on TJJ, let's say, and Avi hasn't done this yet, so I'm probably giving him a very bad idea right now, but let's say hypothetically Avi were to tell us what hotel we were staying at, but not for how long, right? Let's say he would explain to us, okay, we're staying in this hotel, and he would say, basically, you have to unpack every single night. And now the issue that you would face is, well, we could only imagine how frustrating that would be. Well, Are we here for 2 days? Are we here for one night? Are we here for the week? Are we here for the entire month? And Avi's like, I'm not telling you. Just trust me. Okay? Like, how annoying would that be? How, like, first of all, don't do this, Avi, because it's very annoying, but it's very, like, uncertaining. It's very confusing. It's very overwhelming. It's very frustrating. And you're just like, I can't. Like, you're not settled, right? That's basically how Bnei Israel in that moment was feeling. Time out. Okay, we just became a people. We're now, Klal Yisrael. We're now part of this nation, and we have this destination to go to this land that we've never heard of, and we've been slaves for 209 years. We don't even know what the heck or how to actually, be free at all. And now you're telling us, oh, just do exactly what I say. Not only that, whatever it is that you're feeling in this moment, just trust me, I got you, no worries. Okay, that's basically what he's saying right now. Now I want you to think of another example, and this is a little bit not similar to the TJJ one. I just wanted you guys to really kind of empathize with Bnei Israel, how they were feeling. But now this is more about an athlete or someone who is trying to get into shape. Okay, and I think Dina could really empathize with this. She just completed Insanity, for those who don't know. Basically, when you think of an athlete or anyone that wishes to get into shape, right? As you're working out, in the beginning of your workout, you're thinking like, what the heck? Why am I doing this? This is torture. I'm like literally suffering. I'm like injuring myself. And then what happens? A day goes by, a week goes by, a month goes by, and all of a sudden you see the lines in your abs, you see your tone, you're not flabby, you see results. And all of a sudden that conditioning that you've put yourself through, the physical conditioning, kind of has that purpose, because you look at your results and you're like, oh, this makes so much sense. No wonder, right? So here, lahavdal, but Hashem, he's always going to know what's best for us, no matter how uncertain, how frustrated, and how confused we feel. And that's the reason why the very first thing that God gave us, that God told us to do, is to really to condition ourselves to actually rely on God, because if not, then we miss the whole point of actually having that trust in our leader. And sometimes, unfortunately, there's so much uncertainty in our lives today specifically, and it's not really a coincidence that the number one thing back then that God taught us was to condition us to rely on him. And today, the number one thing that we really need to do is to condition ourselves to rely on him today, because there's so much uncertainty in this world, right? Aviv was just talking about how he's like, wait, time out. Are we going to go in the end of, or are we going to have Yeshivat TJJ in 2 weeks from now, or in a month from now, or what? We have no idea what's flying. There's so much uncertainty. There's no decision making that's happening. We're on our own. We haven't seen our friends. And this is the opportunity where we finally get to recondition ourselves and re-wake ourselves up to really put that trust into our leader, while yes, we're feeling frustrated, while yes, we're feeling uncertain, to realize that there's this end result. And with Emunah, with that trust, with conditioning ourselves to really rely on ourselves, to rely, on Hashem, that frustration and irritation really comes down to ease and clarity and calmness. Just like you see the end result in your workout, you know what you're going to get, and in the minute you're frustrated, but the second you see it, you're like, okay, this makes sense, and you've conditioned yourself in those hard times. Here today, Bnei Israel back then, they had to condition themselves. They had to literally unpack they had families, okay? They weren't just unpacking an overnight trip. This was their life stuff. They had to unpack every single night. And while it could have been frustrating for them, the very last pasuk said, V'yasu yachenu. They traveled and they went and they did it and they accomplished it. And they did it with happiness. And here, we're going to do the exact same. This is the time where whatever the summer happens, whatever it is, whether decisions of seminary, yeshiva, whatever the case may be, while there's so much uncertainty, you have to condition yourself in these times, like Bnei Israel did only a few thousand years ago, to really build that trust and to really have that emunah. I hope everyone enjoyed. I for sure went over time because I didn't plan this at all, but I'm so sorry. And if anyone has questions, let me know. after everyone else finishes learning. But I miss you guys.
But how will they have your number?
My number is 561-789-0404.
Thank you. And that's why I married her. Okay, guys, I am posting the links right now in the virtual chat. Thank you, Rebbitzin. Beautiful. First share links. We have a full lineup today. Baruch Hashem. If you're in my share, please stay right here. Where is the situation? There it is. Oh, I found it. And they are posted. Find your links right now.